So why does everyone love Tornado Shot? Why is it the most popular bow skill in general that everyone wants to play? Some folks have made their entire identity based around it. Grimro. My first bow build ever was a Tornado Shot build, but this was years and years ago. I'm sure I didn't do more than 1 or 2 million DPS. So enjoy the montage of me decimating literally all of the content in the game. It can do literally everything, even fairly deep delving. And we'll talk about why this skill is just so darn popular, why everyone wants to play it. Do an Uber Maven? Oh, sure. That's what I can do with the points here.
The prize base comes to join my collection. And will be returned tenfold.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if we can get a revenge on Kostas here. All right, revenge on Kostas. That's pretty good. And Omni. There we go. More damage is always the answer. There we go. Good enough. And Ziri's up here, Shaper's down there. Okay.
At least
We got Shaper first.
Like
Oh, he died so quickly, I didn't even notice.
handle this. Handle
Wait, hold on.
Until next time.
All right. Here you go. This is why. So what we did over the past couple days is we put together about 5 to 6 mirrors worth of Tornado Shot. A community member was putting this build together. They had a lot of this gear. They ran out of time. They had to go back to work and, you know, be a real human being. And they asked me to put together the Tornado Shot build in the way that I best could. So that is what I've done. And yeah, I am convinced. I understand it. I get it. So what is Tornado Shot? Why is it so good? I want to start off by saying Fuzzy Duxie right here. He's made a lot of Tornado Shot videos. Great video right here by Fuzzy Duxie. I'll link it below. You know, this is a great video if you want to know the fundamentals of Tornado Shot. I'm not going to go. It's a very good 13-minute video if you want to understand the gem. Basically, the short of it is you shoot out this skill. In fact, let me switch to a little bit simpler of a character here. But basically, the way that Tornado Shot works is the initial shot doesn't do any damage. That's not what you're doing to hit the enemy. It will then explode at wherever your mouse cursor is. And after that explosion, it's not an explosion. It doesn't deal damage, but it finishes right there. Then it'll shoot secondary projectiles that then hit the monster. And then by adding additional projectiles, we actually scale better than basically any other skill in the game with additional proj. One secondary projectile from each explosion can then deal damage to the enemy. So based on the calculations, it can actually be beneficial to add more projectiles. Even though it says less projectile damage on the gem, it can actually be better for more damage, right? And the very simple calculation that we could do, right, is if you have 100 base damage, you know, you're shooting 1 arrow and then the 1 secondary proj hits the enemy, you know, 100 damage times 1 arrow equals 100 damage. So take, for example, hypothermia. That's going to make us do 30% more damage. So 100 times 1 arrow times 1.3 equals 130 damage. But what if we put in GMP? GMP right here says 35% less proj damage, but 4 additional projectiles. So we get 100 times 5 times 0.65 equals 500 times 0.65 equals 325 damage. So normally with a regular skill like lightning arrow, ice shot, any of them, additional proj for those other skills actually makes you deal less damage because you can't shotgun, right? If you shoot 10 lightning arrows, even if you're right in the monster's face, only one of those arrows will actually deal damage. Tornado Shot is an exception here. So not only do we get the benefit of better screen coverage, you know, better off-screen coverage, but we also scale our damage based on the number of projectiles. So you can see it's like kind of random the direction that those projectiles go. But the nice thing is those additional proj actually also scale the number of secondary projectiles. Now, like I said, only one of those arrows can actually deal damage from that explosion, but just having additional projectiles makes it more likely that one of those arrows coming off of the, the explosion will hit the enemy. If we take a freeze frame right here, we can see that the projectiles are going off this way. This one's going this way, this one, this one, this one. This is actually a very specific thing that you have to figure out when you're playing Tornado Shot, is where you want to aim to maximize the number of projectiles that are going to hit the monster that you're aiming at. As you can see right here, like the best place to have the monster would be right here, but this gets a lot better with even more proj. I actually don't have enough proj in this setup. This is only 5 arrows. You really want about 8 arrows minimum to make Tornado Shot feel good. And yeah, let me demonstrate that real quick. It is dawning on me how absolutely ridiculous this setup is. If we go to a end game tornado shot setup, hopefully you can see quite a bit of a contrast here. There's so many arrows coming off that we actually can't even tell. You can see all of these arrows are already, like, I have so much projectile speed that's absolutely just crazy. But we can see that there are arrows. I'm going to try to trace back from the initial arrows right here. There's just so many. So the idea is usually you want the enemy that you're shooting at to be kind of like in the cone right here. And then you're going to generally have a lot of coverage in the area, like in the middle of the, the convex that you're trying to hit on the enemies. Like kind of think of it as a satellite dish, right? You get the center point of the satellite dish and you want to have the enemy right where that is. And the interesting thing about that is the distance traveled, right? So since we're using far shot right here, the distance traveled for the secondary projectile is not from your character, right? So even if you're point blank on the enemy, right, which is like kind of a thing that you want to do with tornado shot, it's usually like right around here is where you want them. But the travel distance actually counts both the out plus the in. You basically get the full far shot distance. 70 distance is about here-ish, I believe. And so as long as it went at least this far and then came back and hit the enemy, you're going to get the full far shot damage, even though your character is standing right next to the monster. I just wanted to quickly talk about the base mechanics right there and how you actually use it. Now, why do people actually play tornado shot? Why is it so ridiculous? Why can it become so ridiculous? Well, basically what I just said. But in combination with that, the other main thing that you want to scale with tornado shot is projectile speed. Those secondary projectiles will go as far as the projectile speed allows, up until the max distance, which is about 1.5 to 2 screens from your character. So if I shoot my tornado shot right here with enough projectile speed, the secondary projectiles will fly all the way off screen. I'm not even kidding. Like as you're running through a map, this is the one skill that really exemplifies the idea of off screening. So all of these secondary projectiles, and remember, we're shooting 10 times 10 projectiles. And if I put in Awakened GMP, I actually have 15 times 15, 225 projectiles that are shot across 9 screens of distance. You'll run through a map and you won't even see a monster the entire time. Let me demonstrate real quickly. I kind of wanted to do a thing where I explored skills that have been around for a long time and like, why are they popular? Like, why do people play this skill? Why is it so coveted? And, why is it time and time again, league and year after year? Why are there people that just always play it? We'll probably have to make one for Flicker Strike as well, for the Flicker Strike fans. But, if I'm shooting right here with my tornado shot, like just look at how ridiculous this is already. This is with Fire's 13 arrows. That's with Awakened GMP in right now. That is without my Dying Sun. But if I turn on my Dying Sun, it's shooting 15 times 15 projectiles. And remember, these projectiles are flying 2 screens away, basically. So as long as I'm shooting in front of me, we pretty much won't see a monster. Like, look at my kill counter. Look at the kill counter as I'm walking forwards, and we don't even see a monster on the screen, right? This is the definition of off-screening. Well, there we go. Tempera Bubble beats us. This really exemplifies the idea of what can't hit you, can't kill you. When I originally put this together, I had over 4K life. And by scaling only proj speed and more damage, I actually took less damage. I was actually safer. Like, I just killed 300 enemies, pretty much not seeing a single one off screen. Like, again, just watch that kill counter. Look at how absolutely absurd that is. Think of all of the content in the game that benefits from it. Like, the vast majority of content, obviously mapping. Like, you don't have to aim at all, right? I can walk in the middle of something. I can walk in the middle of anything. And I can just shoot on my character. I don't have to aim at all. I can just shoot on my character, and the off-screen will kill absolutely everything. There's no aiming. I wonder if I can kill the boss from here. If I just shoot from here, it'll probably ricochet off. Let's see if the boss is dead. Oh, no, it didn't hit the boss. But from here, I can probably kill the boss, right? It gives you this off-screening capability that can go around walls. It can go around everything. Because you get, effectively a 90-degree angle, or you get all of the angles, right? Like, even if there's a barrier right here in front of me, look at all of the other arrows that are kind of going past that barrier and shooting, the entire full screen coverage. So we scale by number of projectiles. Projectile speed allows us to off-screen better than probably anything else in the game. And then what's the final piece to this puzzle? Obviously, the answer is damage. So this is my current configuration right now. I'm at 711 million damage per second. That's assuming that every single arrow hits, right? We can only kind of fudge it. I have tornado shot set to 10 projectiles right here. Each one of those projectiles is hitting for 8.3 million damage. And then 8 times 7.6 attacks per second is 63 million DPS per single projectile, then multiplied by 10 because I have 10 different tornado shots that then can theoretically hit, right? That's the best case scenario. It's obviously not 100% accurate. It's close enough. And then on top of that, we have Ensnaring Arrow, Frenzy. We have a Mana Forge set up. We have Tornado that is spawning from our bow. And then we also have Culling Strike as well, which, gives us theoretically more damage on top of that. If we go to the absolute high end right here, we can see that the Pewee Ninja Warriors right here have 1.4 million DPS. Now, this is not the most accurate thing in the world, right? This is kind of faking it with Flask. They don't even have a Mage Blood. Black Suncrest is actually worse than a Heat Shiver in realistic scenarios. But if you want to min-max Pewee Ninja, that's the way. The big thing is going into physical damage. And once you get into physical damage, then, the world's your oyster. The big thing that you're doing here is we are scaling Hatred as well as Hatred Effect. We want to go for as much aura effect as possible on our tree, on our gear, and all of that, because what Hatred does. So if we do the math on why Hatred is absolutely so cracked, if we're doing 100 physical damage, that then is converted to 100 cold damage, 100 times 1.25 for 125, and then 125 times 1.18 for the 18% more. It multiplies both of those. That 125 gets multiplied by 1.18. So 125 times 1.18. So it's giving us 47% more damage. Hatred alone is 47% more damage on your physical based cold conversion skill. And nothing in the game even compares, particularly because we have things like Watcher's Eyes that can give us base crit chance, increased cold damage, flat cold damage, stuff like that. And then we get all of the benefits of Chill and Freeze, stacking with something like Heat Shiver right here, which then gives us up to 130% more cold as fire damage. That's a gigantic multiplier. And since we're hitting so hard, we're freezing very often. And then if we want to look at the very high end of scaling, right? If I take off this jewel socket right here, these cluster jewels are actually the single highest way that we can get more damage. So looking right here, Repeater gives us 8% attack speed and 30% projectile damage. This node alone is giving me 4.5% damage or 34 million damage per second. So these three nodes alone are giving me 62 million DPS. And that's why I scale into 4 medium cluster jewels. Each one is giving me 62 million DPS. So I'm getting 240 million DPS just from these medium cluster jewels. Besides that, it's a Crystallized Omniscience build. Both the Ellie and Fizz versions go for Crystallized Omniscience. This is basically what opened up bow builds in general. Omni basically started the bow revolution. So what we do is we want to stack as much of our attribute as possible with something crazy like this. You stack every single bit of attributes that you can get. And what that does is it converts to Elemental Pen. So we can see that I have 2,406 Omni. And so it says penetrates 1% elemental res per 15. So 2,406 divided by 15, I have 160% elemental pen. And what that really does is it opens up the ability to not have to do any curses. So normally to even get a fraction of this power, to emulate a fraction of this power, we would have to use both Frostbite and Elemental Weakness. And just those two together would be what, like minus 70 res? It's not even half as good as just using Crystallized Omniscience. And then the other benefit of that is we don't care about attribute requirements. Not a huge deal, but not caring about attribute requirements is really nice because that way we can just equip everything. Granted, we do scale, technically a lot of attributes, right? If I take off the Omni, you can see how many attributes I actually have. So not really an issue because we're scaling it like crazy regardless. But for example, if I did have something that, needed really high intelligence and I didn't incidentally have a lot of intelligence in this build, and I was just doing dex and strength, that would be a thing that I just wouldn't care about at all, because I have those attribute requirements for anything. But again, like I said, this is not a build guide. I'm not going to go over all the gear and all the links and everything. I just wanted to talk about why the skill is just so crazy and so awesome. And if you're sitting on 1 to 200 divines and you've never played Tornado Shot, this is a great opportunity to do it. I've been going pretty crazy talking about bow builds this league. Even if you're not using Vengeance Cascade, the value that you get from the Crucible trees, still the value that you get from Crystallized Omniscience. And on top of that, I think the big thing that's really huge here is what we get now with Mana Forged Arrows, now giving us Power Charge on crit and Frenzy for free, effectively. We could just 3-link Mana Forged Arrow with Frenzy and Power Charge on crit. And that alone is just giving us power charges and frenzy charges all the time, which is really elevating what Deadeye especially can get away with. Again, we get +2 proj for free as well with just a large Thread of Hope right here. Man, if you're not playing a bow build this league, I don't even know. I understand that people want to play other things. I understand that people are liking their Totem Explode or whatever. But man, yeah, I delve down to 715, Wave 30 Simulacrum without blinking. You can kill all of the Ubers in 1 to 2 seconds. I think the cool thing is this league, we do get the benefit of Mana Forged and Vengeance Cascade, making Lightning Arrow and Ice Shot more competitive. But at the very high end, Tornado Shot is still king. I was playing a multiple mirror Ice Shot deck stacking Deadeye, a couple days ago, and I respected into this Tornado Shot. And with the right money, if you're running around with the Mage Blood and everything, nothing compares. I don't know if there's anything else in the game that really compares for really taking advantage of that full power fantasy of just, I am become death, the Bower of Worlds. There's nothing else that's like it. Yeah, if you've never played Tornado Shot, I'll link the POB below, and maybe I'll do like a baby build guide tomorrow. This is like a 5-6 mirror build, so I understand it's not for everybody, but if you have never tried that, if you're sitting on money or you have an aspirational goal, we have over a month until the next league. So if you have something that you want to work towards, this is the skill. I just wanted to ramble and talk to you guys a little bit about how crazy this skill is, why it's so crazy, maybe pique your interest a little bit before XLCon, which I'm going to be at in a couple weeks. I'm excited. It's coming up real fast. And yeah, hope to see you guys there. All right, goodbye.